Hey everyone, Tactics here with another advanced dungeon route walkthrough, where in this video I'll be taking you guys through NELTHARUS in Season 4 of Dragonflight. As a disclaimer, the route here that I'm going to be going through is not pug friendly. Instead, it's more targeted at players in coordinated groups or pushing for the 0.1% title. There's a lot of tech that may require group coordination or specific class comps, so not something that every single pug group is going to be able to do. I will be sure to thoroughly explain any of the tech that we did use and how exactly it works, just so you can recreate it yourself in your own groups. With that said, let's hop into the key here with an absolutely massive pull, just increasing the speed a little bit, towards Magmatusk room. So off the top here, I'm grabbing these wardens, jumping, and basically everyone else in the group is just straight running with me here, making sure not to actually hit any of these mobs yet. As you can see, damage done. No one's doing anything because I'm busy grouping here. Don't have a ton of aggro on these mobs. Gonna grab these guys in the corner. There's going to be, I believe, 3-4 thaumaturges in this pull. And you can see we have marks going out on the thaumaturges as we are grouping up the pack here. And basically, one person is assigned to each thaumaturge of myself and the 3 DPSers. And that is mostly for that kick. Any of these Aura Elemental Empowerment casts going off is going to be a wipe if you don't instantly kill that Aura Elemental that gets buffed. So be aware of that. Very, very scary. And that is kind of the priority in this pull. I am free to kind of rip all my sigils in this pull to stop not only the Thaumaturge's spell, the interrupt, but also their random target channel ability, because that's going to do a lot of damage, especially as you get into higher fortified keys. So here, grouping up the entire pack. Notice that the one in the corner, the thaumaturge that was in that corner, did cast preemptively. So we had our evoker assigned to deal with that guy. Everything's in. We're lusting. We're popping all our CDs. The wardens are coming in late here, so you just need to be aware. They will frontal a little bit here. You can see everyone's moved off to the side to avoid those frontals. Just so be aware of that. In general here, the target priority is not the wardens. Even though they're the highest health mob, we are going to be focusing the actual thaumaturges themselves with our damage, just to get rid of those potential wipe conditions, because the wardens are pretty much only doing damage to me, right? As the tank, they have that frontal, but the thaumaturges are dealing random target damage, and also they have those casts, which can also just absolutely murder your whole raid if there's an Aura Elemental up, right? So keep that in mind. We're getting kicks and stops as much as possible here. And then you can see the thaumaturges are basically the first things to die shortly after, or even sometimes before, the Aura Elementals. And at this point, we're kind of safe. All the thaumaturges are dead, so we can chain a few more Aura Elementals here. But this pull is still very alive, so I'm not actually going to do a hard chain yet. We're going to probably kill off the wardens before we do anything too crazy here, because from here, we're going to go all the way up and into the boss itself. So as this stuff starts to die, I think there's one more warden left. And as soon as we kill that warden, actually both wardens are still up here. I'm going to kill those wardens, and then we're going to just dip out from there, waiting to get recovered from the bursting and the damage at the end of the pull there. And then we're going all the way up. I think I could have gone a little bit faster here. I realized I'm pretty far ahead of my group, so I need to actually invest some kick/stops in this thaumaturge, I think. Or maybe we get it late. I think, we have some, they come in. I just delayed slightly, but you want to get up here to trigger this RP. And then again, the goal here is we're going to be training this into the boss. We're just going to make sure we have kicks and stops called and assigned on this star mob here. So you want to make sure those all get stopped. He gets kicked, everything like that. Boom, we get a kick, and then we go in straight into the boss here. And just chain this into the boss, because again, really the only scary thing here is the thaumaturge itself. There's some swirlies from the plunderer, pretty easy to dodge. You need to be dodging swirlies on this boss fight anyways. And then outside of that, the spine crusher just does tank damage, right? So there's really not a ton to worry about in terms of mechanics these trash mobs are adding, as long as you focus the thaumaturge interrupts and stops. That's pretty much it. Now for Magmatusk, we basically kind of do like a 4-corner strategy, where you saw there our first charge bait was like on this close wall, and then we're going to rotate basically 1 corner at a time. Watch those waves. Our next charge is going to be kind of like in this area, coming up in just a second here. There's the charge, and we basically just rotate around the room, and you're going to see as we rotate around the room here, by the time we get back to this area, this flame will have already kind of disappeared. So basically, you spend 3 charges in other areas of the room, and then by your 4th charge again, this area should be clean. And that allows you to basically do this fight indefinitely. This is only a 15 fort, so we don't have to do the boss fight that long, but on a higher fort key or even on a tyrannical key, this strategy really helps you. It buys you a lot of time to, like, you can already see it's starting to disappear already, actually. So we could have returned already, but we can get a little bit more time, and this will even start to disappear before we move into that area. Otherwise, the only real thing to worry about is the volatile mutation here. Remember, the first few of these are easier to deal with because they're shorter duration. Even this one, I believe, is the last one 25 seconds? I don't remember if that was nerfed enough. Let's check. Let's check if this last one's 25 seconds. I remember it being 25 seconds. Yeah, it is. So at this point, this is the most ramped up one. So 2 minutes into the fight, that's when it starts getting scary again. More of a thing for higher Tyrant keys to be aware of. So, keep that in mind. But this ticks every, I believe, 4 seconds, if I remember correctly. So time your defensives accordingly. Now we come into the hunter side of the arena, and with the nerfed chains, basically the goal here is still try and pull as big as possible. And to do that, the game has changed slightly, where you're now trying to skip as many hunters as possible. You see here, we marked a phoenix, and the reason for this is this phoenix kind of flies around this whole area in a bit of a patrol, but this phoenix is actually tied to these two hunters. So to get past these two hunters without pulling them, you need to avoid this phoenix. Something you can do is you can root the phoenix when it's on a good path. So right here, it's going to fly around and it's going to stay right there. So you'd be able to hug left here, and our druid's actually going to catch it with a roots, which is good, and we can just safely walk through. So if you're a druid, if you have someone who has entangling roots, if you have a druid in your group, can run ahead and get the entangling roots on the phoenix when it's a good patrol. That can save you a bit of time. Otherwise, though, you just kind of have to wait for it to be on this side and run through to avoid it as quickly as possible. So here I'm going to grab a few phoenixes, going to grab the far phoenixes as well. Avoiding hunters. Remember, we're avoiding this pack. That's got hunters. Avoiding this guy up here. That's a hunter. And we're just going down. And this pull will have only a single hunter in the entire pull. I'm just basically rounding up everything here. Hitting the phoenixes, hitting the mobs. And we're going all the way down to the far chain. Now, chains in general, they're not very useful. I won't lie to you. They're, what, a 5-second, 50% damage increase, if I remember correctly. And stun. It's not great, right? Not many classes can take advantage of the burst very well. We do our best, but we're literally only going to use this chain. We're not going to try and chain again. It's just, I don't know, maybe if you're really min-maxing, but you can see how much I'm grouping here, right? I'm trying to get these two mobs from the room as well. And again, this is a hunter. We're avoiding this mob. So boom, I'm going in. I'm then coming back after, popping some defensive so I don't die. And I'm going to group everything up on this chain, and we're going to get a chain pop here. Watch the overseer kicks as well, because that can easily murder your chain users. I think we actually haven't chained yet. We haven't chained yet. Usually it's our healer, but our healer isn't in comms in this run. So our evoker just grabbed it and did the chain, but you can see not a ton of value from that chain. You do want to wait until, people are in their damage, right? You don't want to instantly chain the pack. You want your shadow priest at least to be able to ramp up a little bit on the pack and then chain so that they have some value from the damage in. But even then, it's not a ton. And then the priority here is to kill the hunter quickly. So they kill the hunter ASAP, and then they put the prio damage into the mini boss. But the mini boss himself is not really super scary. It's really just that hunter, if they ever able to jump out and bleed someone, it can be very, very scary. Or even a spear amongst all this kind of chaos that one shots, right? So just want to kill that hunter ASAP and then just leave the pack down. Then you get into a neat tech. So Sleepwalk makes this easier. I actually think we messed this up because of Shadow Priest pets, which is nice. But basically, everyone would come in here and you would hug right. And then the Evoker can Sleepwalk the left hunter. And that will pull the hunters, both of them for some reason, up here. And then they just stay there for some reason. I don't know why it works that way, but it does. Now, even if you didn't have an Evoker, these guys would be right here. And you could still jump around them. And you could tank the boss in basically this, like, you'll get 25% of the room, that quarter of the room, and you would still be able to do it without pulling these hunters. So you can do this without an Evoker. Having the Evoker just gives you like 75% of the room to play with instead of only 25. So something to keep in mind. But again, our Shadow Priest pet, I believe, runs around till we jump off. So you need to be aware of your pets, and he pulls the hunter. So not ideal. And we've already pulled the boss at this point. So now we've got to deal with 2 hunters on this boss. Not fun. So keep that in mind. If you have pets out when you're doing the skip, make sure you get rid of the pets. But otherwise, that is how you would skip the 2 hunters. And you can do that again with an Evoker, makes it easier, but you can do it without an Evoker as well. Now I believe we're prioritizing the hunters here to make sure they don't absolutely murder us. Still going to be some time before we actually kill them. And basically how we handle breaks is 1-1-1. We try and get the first person to break instantly. I think he just missed slightly there with the chain. And it's usually for us, it's going to be our evoker clears instantly, and then our casters. Usually they'd also be a little bit closer together. So we were in a bit of a weird spot here. I probably should have, I probably should have moved the boss a little bit further towards the edge here to make this a little bit easier for them, because you see usually what they would do, the two range here, is they would be right beside each other straight across. But because I'm kind of in the middle of them right now, it's just a bit weird. So usually I would be probably back here with the boss. The evoker's chain would be here. He'd go at break instantly, and then these two would go right straight across. And it'd be easy for me to just walk through them while popping defensives, because fiery focus is quite scary. It's been nerfed, but it is still quite a bit of damage. You need to make sure you are planning your defenses accordingly. So this first one, for example, I have meta, and every single one I will have fell dev just because it's a short enough CD. And again, like you see there, just 3 1 breaks, 3 single breaks in a row, and that's how we handle this on Fort. That's how we handle this on Tyrant, no matter what. If you had like a really powerful burst healer, potentially it could be valuable to break 2 at a single time. But generally, at least with the rest of we found just doing 3 single breaks is a lot easier. It means your tank has to live for a little bit longer, maybe like a couple seconds longer, but it's not really the end of the world, because you should already be planning out your defensive. So you can see here, I used meta on that first one, and I'm now holding my firebrand until the spears come out, and now it's going to last through the whole duration of the spears. This, again, we were a bit awkward. Again, we were on the wrong sides. I think we did a bounce, but things have been chaotic this pull because of the hunter, so I don't blame them. It is what it is. You can see here, I'm trying to break basically on CD here, and Feldev and Fiery Brand is enough to get me through that phase safely. And then we're going to be coming back, and I'm going to have, similar, I think I'm going to have Fiery Brand again coming up, because again, I did the Firebrand a little bit early as soon as the Grounding Spear cast started. And so now I'm going to have the Firebrand as soon as the Fiery Focus cast starts. You can see there, boom, I can instantly Firebrand, and I still have Feldev again. And then the next round I would have meta, right? So if on a higher Tyrant key, this would be, I would still be safe because I'd have meta coming up again, and Firebrand wouldn't be up. So that's kind of how I plan out my cities as a Demon Hunter. But obviously, different specs would plan it out differently. Just as long as you have something pretty significant or a couple smaller things combined together, you should be good for each of those phases. And that's that boss. Here again, we're skipping this hunter. You can do this in a couple ways. So again, this can be sleepwalked. You can sleepwalk this, and everyone can just run by it. Alternatively, hunter or mage. Actually, I don't know if you can poly this. I think they're giants, but hunter, you could trap this guy and run by and then feign at the other end once everyone's through. That would work. Demon hunter, I can pull him over here, and I can misery him, and then I can run through and meld, that kind of thing. So a bunch of different classes can do it, but sleepwalk works as well. Very powerful. So we're walking through here, and we're pulling everything in this area again. And again, this is going to be another single hunter pull. Because we've skipped that one hunter, this reduces the number of hunters in this pull by half. And this hunter, I think he just comes in there. He's at the very end. So you weren't doing the entire pull with a hunter hitting people, probably going to get 2 bleeds out. That's a single hunter bleed right there, by the way. That's what the hunter does. So that's why we're avoiding as many of them as possible. And then the evoker ran ahead and grabbed the 3 phoenixes here, just so that we can get them all down in this one pull. And again, we're doing the burning chain, boom, giving them a little bit of time. We also lusted here. This is kind of where our lust naturally ended up. We're going to be doing 3 pretty large pulls here, back to back to back. Again, this is our chain pull, so there's some value there for the lust for sure. Maybe we're probably wasting a bit of lust here. Not the end of the world though. Again, relatively low key level for title pushing, so you go up a couple key levels, and that lives the whole lust for sure. And now we're just going to be running up the hill here. We have goulash as well. Make sure you use your goulash. I used it late there. For the goulash positioning, by the way, for those that don't know, it's actually in this room. There it is. This pot is the goulash as you run through this room. So someone with cooking, make sure you pick it up. Then we're going upstairs, and we're going to do a triple pull here. And so basically, we're pulling these 2 pulls, and then we're adding it to the patrol in the next room here. All you need to make sure you have is a ranged kick on each of these first lava flares, because they will try and cast while you're grouping. This chain. Look at this. I'm trying to target the pack, and I just cannot because of this chain. That's crazy. Anyways, be aware of that, I guess. We grouped up the pull. I'm chaining it together, and then I'm using sigils to keep things CC'd. Notably here, I don't want to bust all of my sigils out, because we're doing, like I said, it's 3 pulls back to back, which are pretty hard here. The first pull we just did, there's not really too much for me to do. I think I used maybe a chains on that pull to just get it grouped, and that was it. But this pull and the next pull have a ton of lava flares in it, and there's also bone splitters in it for stops as well. And so I really want to make sure that I am kind of conserving my sigils in this scenario and using more of other people's shorter CD stops. So we're going to be calling those as well. And that's basically on the melts. The melts should all be synced up because of Silent Sigil. When I got them all in, I Silent Sigiled them, and that should allow you to sync up all the lava flares at once, which means that it's very easy to get them all stopped here. You can see, boom, we just have stops assigned on every single one. Don't really worry about the mode of combustion. It's a magic dispel, easy to get rid of. So not a big deal there. If it gets accidentally stopped, it gets accidentally stopped. Same deal with their frontal, just avoid it. Your main priority on the stops are the lava flares, and then if the bone splitters try and do their charge, which they'll only do if the tank steps out of range, so be aware of that. And you're just, again, we're just rotating through stops on these melts, and that is all we care about as we AoE this pack down. There's the charges again, because I stepped a little bit out of range, so they tried to charge, and at this point, I am now out of sigils, so I'm going to be regenning back to these sigils for the next pull itself. And again, that's a very similar style pull where we're going to be needing to rotate now through other people's stops as well, because I am a little bit lower on the sigils like I mentioned. So yeah, I still have 2 sigils going in this, and I'll get a third as well. And the goal here, we're going to run through, again, same deal as the previous pull. These 2 lava flares will need 1 kick on the way in. So we assign the kicks, grab this pack, and we're going through, and then we're going to LOS around here, right here. You can see I tuck into this corner, and then I'm going to get these initial stops just on the first 2 because it's tough. And now we've got a bunch of sigils to work with here. And so again, less than having all of my sigils, just like in the last pull, I don't want to use absolutely everything for that. And so we're going to have to use a combination of my sigils and calling stops on the melts. But again, there's that Silent Sigil to try and sync everything up, and it worked. All 4 lava flares are now relatively synced up, and then we're just kind of rotating through our AoE stops here to prevent the lava flares from getting any melt casts actually off here. And then as these guys die, you're going to see me chain the guys beneath us there, because we've got the lava flares down. The prio target is the blacksmith here, because of course having 2 blacksmiths is definitely a bit of a death sentence. Then they're just the highest kind of health target. So I'm going to be chaining these guys in. And I do have meta here for the kind of initial period here where I have these 2 blacksmiths, and I, got the double dispel ability there. Not dispel ability, sorry, their dot, super scary. So I have meta, makes it not too bad. And then chain Firebrand out of that meta just for the single blacksmith that is now here. And then again, just cleaning up these lava flares. But the priority is the blacksmith, of course, with their health. And then we're going into the Forgemaster boss, probably the hardest boss in here, waiting for healer mana, of course. And basically, this boss is pretty straightforward, right? His whole damage combo is the Might of the Forge. This first hit, boom, this one is physical. Then every other hit, which I believe there's 2 more hits here at the end of the cast, boom, halfway through, and 1 like right at the end, or there's 3. There's 3, and those 3 are fire hits. So the first is physical, and then he does like half of a cast, and then he does 3 more hits at the end of his cast, so be aware of that. Then that's pretty much what healers want to be set for. Blazing Aegis obviously also deals some initial damage and a dot. And also, if you are the first target of the Blazing Aegis and you have a combat drop, so in this one, it is Sim White, the Shadow Priest. If he was a Night Elf, he could Shadow Meld, and this would not cast. This would completely cancel the entire cast. It only works if you're the first target, so keep that in mind. Combat drops also work invis, so if our mage gets targeted, he can invis. If a hunter gets targeted, he could feign. Actually, maybe feign doesn't work. Vanish works, though. Vanish does work from rogue, so I think this might be a weird one where feign doesn't work, actually. But the other ones do. So that can help to reduce a lot of damage, right? Boom, this damage would all be gone. You wouldn't have to move for swirlies, and you can see they're taking damage too, so that would also be mitigated. I think our druid does kind of, does do that, actually, on one of them. Maybe I could fast forward and find it. This one is... Oh, no. This one's on the priest again. Let's see. That one happens again. Maybe it's at the end. Surely it's at the end. Oh, yeah, this one. There you go. You can see. So, boom, it targets the druid. Druid melds. And these, you still have your circles, but he stopped casting, right? He's not doing that. So that is this guy over there. Other than that, you can see I'm just trying to, with the heated swings, I'm just trying to kind of drop them off in the same location. This can kind of be wherever. Just try and avoid the table. The table is not ideal. Otherwise, you can evade bug out, and this is not really a big deal to eat a couple seconds of eating here. Make sure also when you dash out that you wait for the big circle from the boss to appear. Otherwise, you're going to put the circle somewhere you don't want it. Now let's move forward. Oop, that's too far forward. There we go. Moving back now, we're going to do a snap. We're going to snap these 2 lava bearers down. And so I'm just going to get aggro. I will make sure everyone is here because I want them to jump down initially. Be careful of this Phoenix. Remember, he has a weird path. He will go here. If you just carefully jump down, you won't go anywhere near his patrol. But if you're just willy-nilly jumping down, especially with like slow fall or something, very easy to pull that mob. So be aware of it. You don't want to do that. I'm going to jump down slowly here and kind of wait over here for them to snap. And we kind of like half decided what we're going to do on this pull. On Tyrant weeks, what we do easily is you take this guy and you take this pack and you take it to the 2-pack up there. Easily you'd do that. I think on Fort weeks, what we're going to be doing, it's kind of half to this pull, but basically I think we just stand here and just nuke the Blazewing to try and kill it as fast as possible. And then once the Blazewing is dead, then chain, just because this guy is the Incandescent Tempest. Super, super scary ability. But I think we start to pull here and we're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do this. So that's what we end up doing. But again, I think, yeah, if we just went there, planted, people dump their damage into the Blazewing, we'd be able to absolutely crush it before like a 3rd cast on a higher fortified key, and we would have beaten the 2nd cast surely on this key if we had planted and done that. But then as soon as it dies, you're fine to chain in here. There's 1 more Warden and 1 more Lavamancer in this. This is the only Lavamancer, so just keep kicks on that guy to reduce tank damage, because you're going to be dealing with quite a bit of it with the triple Wardens in this pull. And then once you kill these guys, you can again move in, and this is where it kind of varies again from Tyrant to Fort. So on Fort, you're pretty happy to do another pull here because your timer's a little bit safer. Maybe on really, really high Fort, you don't want to do that. On Tyrant, because of the tighter timer, usually what you're going to do here is basically, you see these mobs on the side here. There's a Lavamancer, a Warden, and there's a guy up here. It's another Warden who patrols back and forth. These 2 guys are tied together, and then this Warden up here is solo. And it's the same on the other side. There's a Lavamancer, a Warden at this front, which are tied together, and a Warden patrol. And basically, you'd pull 3 of them in, the 2 Wardens and the Lavamancer, onto the boss. You'd fight the boss for a bit, they die, and then you'd pull these 3 into the boss. Fight them with the bit with the remainder of the boss fight, and you know, the boss dies or they die first, and then you finish off the other, and that's all the count you need. On Fort, what we're probably just going to do here is we're just going to grab these 2. Also, because we actually pulled those hunters, we don't need the 2nd Warden up this hill, because we pulled those 2 hunters, if you remember, on Chargath by accident. So grab these, just this 2-pack here, and pull this. If you didn't grab the hunters, you need the extra Warden, so be aware of that for this pull. And again, on Tyrant, you'd skip this middle Blazewing pull entirely, I think, and you just pull 3 onto boss, and then when they die, you'd pull the other 3 onto boss, and that would be good as well, just to save a bit of time on the boss fight. And because, of course, the double Warden Lavamancer aren't nearly as scary, because the real scary thing when you're pulling these mobs on the boss is the Lavamancer's shield. So for those that don't know, there's when Molten Barrier goes up, when it breaks, you're going to see it deals a bit of damage to the group. Boom. That's like a pretty significant chunk of damage, right? And that's really a problem when it overlaps with the shield phase. So if you ever get a bad timing like that, it can be very, very spooky, because you're eating the shield ticks from the boss, and then you're also eating the Molten Barrier from this ad blowing up. So be aware of that if it ever does overlap and you're pulling trash on the boss. Otherwise, you know, pull on the boss or don't, doesn't really matter. To me, I'll probably link 2 routes down in the description. One that does the more Tyrant focused route where you're doing the bigger pull up here and then you're pulling stuff on the boss, and then the Fort focused route, which has 1 extra pull but doesn't pull anything crazy onto this boss. And we're just going last boss here. Pretty straightforward last boss. I'm pretty sure you only need like 2.5 gold pile items now to break the shield. So if you just have 3 items, the shield just absolutely insta break. So you can plan that accordingly. Obviously, if you have curses spells, it can help with reducing your damage intake a bit here. But other than that, the only thing you really need to be worried about is the molten gold dot. Only debuffs 1 person per phase, so they just need a little extra love and potentially to pop some defensives if there's anything, you know, scary going out, or they're worried. Other than that, and you can see that the shield literally insta breaks here. I think we had 4, so that's probably even a little bit overkill. And you know, again, damage amp. So if you have anything extra there to pop into the damage amp, it can be pretty valuable. But otherwise, the boss is pretty simple, which is why people are starting to pull, you know, multiple mobs onto the boss itself, because there's not really a ton for people to deal with. And the wardens and the lava mancers generally are just tank stuff, right? It's mostly just tank stuff, and this boss is a very weak tank boss, right? They don't really hit the tank at all, so it's not a big deal to have a bunch of tank damage mobs in here if the boss doesn't do much, right? So that is it for this boss, and that is it for this walkthrough, guys. Hopefully you found it useful, and if you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like it. Beta is coming out next week, so I'll be having beta thoughts on all 6 tank specs, the War Within Season 1 when we know more about that, and much more, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Otherwise, shout out to all of my Patreon supporters for making content like this possible, and I'll see everyone in the next video.